This is roundtable number 39, reciprocation. We'll be focusing our discussion tonight on cannabis legal reciprocation. What does it mean, and what would it mean to have reciprocation? I think it's very easy to fall into categories where you may not feel like there's much left to do. You know, if you're in a state that has legal access and legalization, you may feel like the battle's over. But there are many states that do not have any medicinal access, any legalization, maybe not even a CBD access program. And tonight, I think we're kind of dedicating our roundtable to those folks. Veterans Action Council roundtable number 39, reciprocation. And our first question that we've got is indeed remembering, thinking of those in states without access. And I guess I'll get the ball rolling by thinking about it a little bit myself. It's kind of crushing to think about those who don't have access. You know, a lot of the more mobile veterans like myself can kind of make do, even if you're in a state or in an area that doesn't have good access to cannabis. You can, you know, find somewhere where you can at least get cannabis and get through. But there are a lot of folks who aren't able to get out of their area, aren't able to travel. In fact, are somewhat trapped in the system. I think those are the ones that I think about. In fact, years ago when we first got the VA policy started, I really kind of dedicated a lot of time and thought to those folks, because they're not thought about. Most of the people that we think about are people that are using medical cannabis and have run into trouble with the VA. And in many cases, the trouble is actually quite the opposite, where this veteran is at the VA suffering horribly and not being offered cannabis, not being told that cannabis could actually help them. I'm thinking probably the most specific case would be a veteran who's suffering through chemotherapy for cancer treatments, where we've got poll data that shows that almost every doctor out in the regular world would, if they're anti-nausea medications and things, including a THC version of THC called Marinol. But if all that failed, there's almost no doctors out there outside the VA that wouldn't think of offering cannabis. But that veteran inside the VA would have to come up with the idea of using cannabis themselves and ask the VA about it before the VA would even talk about it. The VA would never bring up the subject. It would never suggest it to them. And I can't even imagine how many veterans have just suffered. And my dad, he sat on the porch going through chemotherapy and just gritted his teeth. The nausea medicine really wasn't working for him. And back in the day when that happened, my dad was a World War II vet. I didn't even know about medical cannabis. I didn't even know it helped him. And my own dad suffered really needlessly because cannabis was widely available back then in the late 1970s, early 1980s. So anyway, that's the first question. I don't know who wants to take it next. Maybe go over to Tony if you want. Tony's out of the few of us here with Pearson in Alaska and Al in Florida and me in Virginia, Tony in Louisiana. I think Tony is the closest to the past, closest to the reality of not having access, the most recent to come online, and maybe the first to be able to really help us remember those in states without access.
Yeah, thank you, Mike, and good seeing everybody. We were successful. I've been in that situation, first of all, that living in Arizona and being a medical cannabis patient. It was one of the reasons I moved. Myself and my wife moved to Arizona, was to get access to cannabis. At the time, Louisiana didn't have. They had a program, but it started out so slow. The program, it's really ridiculous just thinking of it, how these legislators enact legislation they put prescribed in the first wording of the law in 2015, and they came back in 2016 with just a change to recommendation, maybe a little something extra special they threw in, and they really, it's really harming veterans, and it's discrediting them. The VA as well. I look at these leaders as quote leaders. That they're sitting in positions of power that they can do stuff like this reciprocity, and they just do nothing. We were successful this year in adding reciprocity in Louisiana, but I was in the position in Arizona. My father died while I was living in Arizona with medical cannabis, and I had to come into Louisiana for a funeral. And I brought my vape pen, and because veterans of travel, people can travel with vape pens pretty much without fear of getting arrested. Carry on vape pen. I wouldn't do it with flour, but a vape pen, you're pretty safe. Not saying anything couldn't happen, but so I brought my vape pen with me. But just to have that weighing over your shoulders, you're in town for a funeral, your father's funeral, and here you are, you're a disabled veteran with severe chronic pain, service connected, and you're having to crawl around like a criminal and hide under a rock just to use something that's less toxic than opiates, and so it's really hard for me to not just get to lose hope with these politicians and the VA, because we have cannabis derived medicine, FDA approved medicine in this country, but yet they failing to recognize that veterans can help save their life by using this, and we having reciprocity. It helps, when you go to return to your home state or any state. If you have a child living in another state, maybe serving active duty, and you retired, and you living in a medical state, and you want to go see their wedding or something, or see one of your grandchildren's birthday parties, and travel to another state, you risk getting a summons and getting arrested on to have your medicine. But yet you could have a truckload of alcohol or a bottle full of opiates, and you're fine. So these government officials are losing their credibility really quick. People are just getting fed up. We know the truth. We know that cannabis helps us stay away from these dangerous drugs, and we know we got to travel. When we joined the military, they sent us to not myself. I didn't go to combat, and I didn't go to other countries, but we go to countries without a passport, go into there and do the military's dirty work, and we come back home wanting to settle down and retire, and treat ourselves with a natural plant medicine, and we have to hop around these states worried about getting arrested. So, it's time for this to end. Really is. And so Louisiana, back to Louisiana. We got a law that's going to take effect August 1st. It's going to protect an out-of-state patient. If you come in Louisiana to visit family or come to one of our festivals here in Louisiana, you'll be able to come into the state with your medical cannabis recommendation from your state and not fear arrest. With your cannabis, you won't get arrested. We also have a law that's going to take effect August 1st that'll enable you to go to one of Louisiana's 9 dispensaries and purchase cannabis. It's just by showing your medical recommendation. So I'm happy about that. We make little incremental changes, but some of these states, say if a veteran wants to travel or has a child with autism or something, he wants to go to another state, if they don't have a medical cannabis program in that state, the veteran can't get access there and the child. So there's a lot of work that really needs to be done to when you have Canada right here, just right across the border, they're giving 3 grams a day to their veterans. Still got a lot of work to do.
Thank you, Council Member Landry. Appreciate it from the heart, man. So Al Byrne, council member Al Byrne, remembering thinking of those in states without access, or did you have something to reply to Tony first?
Well, I'd like to comment on Tony's comments, which I think were right on the money. And because Tony defined two different kinds of reciprocity. Fortunately, Louisiana has seen both sides. And by this, I mean, Tony says, and this is the law apparently, that if I come down from Massachusetts with my medical cannabis card to a crawfish festival in Louisiana, and some police officer challenges my use of cannabis, and I show my Massachusetts card, it shows I'm a medical patient, then I will be excused. I'm a patient. That's good. That's one form of reciprocity. The other form is also apparently what Louisiana has done, where I'm down there from Massachusetts with my legitimate card, and I want to purchase some Louisiana cannabis, and I can. So that's another form of reciprocity. We have medical cannabis patients being recognized by a good number of states that just allow that you can have your cannabis medicine here and you won't be harassed by the state. And then a lesser number, I think Michael has identified like 10 or 12, where you can actually go into a state like Louisiana and buy cannabis from a dispensary with everything being legal. So again, just for the audience, there's two kinds of reciprocity. Everybody knows I'm a storyteller. Let me tell you the first time I ran into this problem. It wasn't my problem. It was a guy named Dennis Ferrone. Dennis Ferrone is one of the most famous vets in cannabis in the history of the world. And he's deceased now, but he was a medical cannabis patient duly licensed by the state of California. And he took a trip, a vacation, and he went to Utah. And he checked into a motel, and he lit up his medicine in the motel, and the motel operator or somebody called the local Utah police, and the Utah police came to arrest Dennis for using cannabis in Utah. And he called me from the motel room. He says, Al, you don't fucking believe what's going on out here. Anyway, Dennis got arrested, and we conversed, he and me and a mother of other people, and it was decided that this had to be fought in court. And there were a number of pro bono attorneys that took up the case, really good people, and Dennis won. His charges of being an illegal, if you will, cannabis user in Utah was dismissed on the basis of him being a legal cannabis patient in California, and that his disease, his needs had nothing to do with state lines, essentially is what it went down to. So, but we're going back now. I mean, damn, I must be 30 years ago or something when he called, when he was getting busted. And he was just laughing. He thought it was the funniest fucking thing went down. But here we are. Let's say 30 years. I might be off a few. Well, they're my dogs. My dogs like this idea. But 30 years later, we're discussing reciprocity, and obviously we're discussing it because it hasn't been settled. So I think Tony brought up some good points. So anyway, next, Pearson.
Well, here, Al, I appreciate that. Before I go up to you, Pearson, I just wanted to make a comment myself. All this discussion has sort of rattled something out of my brain. And I didn't realize, it's funny, you don't think about what you're not looking at. You don't think about what you're not doing, I guess, as much as you think about what you are doing and what you are looking at. And most of the states that we've worked in, we've been successful. And the way we work as volunteers, at least with Veterans for Medical Cannabis Access, speaking for that organization, we've worked as complete volunteers. So it's up to who shows up, who steps forward to work on stuff. And the states where veterans have stepped forward, we've been able to, marshal some of the resources of the cannabis movement to help them and make them successful. So I don't really know that many vets in states that aren't legal. We have Jeff Staker that's fighting the good fight out there in, gosh, it's not coming to my brain now where he's at. Indiana. Yeah, Indiana. And then we have Russ Belville, Radical Russ from the day. He's out there in Idaho fighting the good fight. Gosh, that's on the front line of fighting the good fight. So I think I would just lay this down as a challenge to anyone listening and anyone ever to hear this call, to reach out to someone in one of those states. There's a bunch of states. What is it? We have 30 something states legal now. So there's still a good number, between 10 and 20 states that are out there that don't have programs. Try to find a veteran in one of those states. Try to reach out. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it as a personal challenge. So what do you think, Pearson? We're on question number 1, kind of remembering, thinking of those in states without access.
Well, I mean, thanks, man. Always a pleasure to be here with all of you gentlemen. I think I have y'all by a couple, 30 years each. That's a joke. No, I mean, as the youngest council member here, I still remember when no states had any type of legalities for medical or recreational use, and it was terrible. Or it still is. It as Al always puts it very clearly, it's a plant, and it's not something that's going to destroy lives like a Reefer Madness type of documentary that was said to do that. But what we're allowing for is something incredible, something incredibly bad. We're allowing veterans to become addicted to medicines that are necessary for some things, but not necessarily necessary for everything, if that makes sense. It was pretty elegant, wasn't it? But if I were able, prior to me going into the patient care in the VA, and they were just like, hey, you know what? Why don't you just smoke a couple joints a day, see how it works out for you before we put you on Percocet. I might not still have track marks in my arm from 15 years ago. I've never had to dig for a vein for cannabis, and it's something that when we don't let human beings become able to use things that are much more healthy to them, when we deny that, it is something that we are denying the future generations of people. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that one.
Appreciate it, Councilmember Pearson. Oh man, it's heavy talking about these things, talking about what's yet to be done. It's a lot more fun to talk about, different preparations of cannabis and Hash Church or something like that. To Hash Church and to ATN. We miss you, ATN. Hope to see you soon. So our second question up to bat is, what does the term treatment by geography mean to you? And, you know, I'll just start it off by saying that it's always good to go to the root causes of things, not to just try to put Band-Aids over things or you know, treat the symptoms, but get to the root cause. And we're talking about reciprocity, and what is one of the main causes of the need for reciprocity is treatment by geography. So I think maybe Al, you want to take a first whack at telling everybody what treatment by geography means?
I do. Thank you, Michael. It has two meanings to me. I coined the term years ago now, unfortunately years ago. I wish it was last week, but it was years ago. And if you can't understand treatment by geography, think treatment by zip code, if it's easier for you. But the point is, veterans treatment within the VHA system, the Veterans Health Administration system, as far as being able to incorporate medicinal cannabis into their treatment protocol, is restricted by where they live. Think about that. If I live in Florida, I'm a veteran. I go to the VA hospital in Tallahassee, Jacksonville, and I walk in there and I say, I need this and I need that. And they say, yeah, okay. And how you doing? You take vitamins? Yeah, you take, what else do you do? I say, I smoke cannabis every day. They just write it down. The doc writes it down, the PA writes it down, and we go on with my treatment protocol. If I live in Kansas and I walk in and I say the same thing to the PA there that's interviewing me for my problem that I've gone to the VA, that person is required to ask me to leave the grounds and come back at least 30 days later when the cannabis is out of my system. Treatment by geography. So you got a wounded veteran in cannabis, and his wounds are neurological. He has spasms and spasticity. I've seen veterans in my council days have spasms so bad they've flipped themselves the hell out of their wheelchair, laying on the ground, flipping around like a fish dying. And I've seen those same veterans take one hit of cannabis and never have another spasm like that in the rest of their lives. But if that veteran is in Kansas, he can't use cannabis and go to the VA. He has to flip out of his wheelchair. The fuck is that? You know, I'm the old guy here, and I'm a non-vet, and I'm still pissed off because me and the guys and ladies that I went to Vietnam with got treated like shit. And you know, it's still going on. That's what treatment by geography is all about. It's still going on. If you're in Kansas or South Dakota or some neologically deprived place, you can't be a vet and use cannabis and save your life from suicide or keep from flipping out of your wheelchair. That's fucking, here's what it is. That's immoral. This is the policy of the United States of America. I'm calling it out. It's an immoral policy. It's unequal. We fought for equality. We died, some of these people that we all know died for equality. This is not equal. And it's medically unethical. I don't understand how anybody in the medical profession can work under these situations for the VHA without resigning. I don't understand them. It's medically unethical. We're veterans. We took an oath. When's it end, guys? When's that oath end? When we're fucking dead. These medical professionals took an oath, right? Do no harm. Do no harm. Yeah, I'm pissed. I hope somebody's paying attention, but it's medically unethical. And then it's just goddamn crazy. Who the hell treats anybody like this? Who would treat anybody like this, especially wounded veterans? I'm sorry if I'm getting a little overboard on this, guys, but I feel this treatment by geography that I identified 15 years ago still goes on, and it's very, very frustrating. The other side of treatment by geography is just what we're discussing, reciprocity. So I can go as a medical patient from Massachusetts to Louisiana, and I'm treated as a patient. I go to South Dakota and they arrest me. I'll pass.
Thank you, Councilmember Byrne. And just so you know, your heartfelt comments are well appreciated. I'll say one thing, sort of throw out a life preserver to that person, that military vet that was sent out to the parking lot to go home and come back in 3 months or whatever it was with clean urine that I was describing. If you're that veteran, or if you know that veteran, just know that I've taken on those cases as a patient advocate, and we've fought. The policy or the local policy is very rare, but usually it's just a doctor. And what usually happens is the programs for medical cannabis are run by the state. They're not run by the federal government. They're not touched by the federal government. In fact, the federal government can't have any participation in the medical cannabis program of the state, to the point where they can't even study the material. The federal government can't even study the cannabis that's being used in the state, in these state dispensaries. They can't just go out of their federal building, drive down the street and walk into a dispensary and show them their ID that they're over 21 and buy it, bring it back to their little federal building. No, they can't do that. And it's surreal to think about it. I just want to emphasize that. But that doctor that's been given the mandate in Kansas or whatever, saying, weed out the, no pun intended, weed out the illegal drug users from your clinic. And they drug test everyone, and they drug test someone for marijuana, and they say, well, you're using illegal drugs. There's no legal marijuana here. They throw them out of the clinic. And that happens. It unfortunately happens. And what I do is I step in and I ask them to show me where it is written that they're supposed to do that, because there's very clear guidance in the VA. There's a huge policy. I think it's Directive 1315, if I remember correctly, that governs all the different prescribing practices. And then there's, of course, the directive that we got in place on medical cannabis. And when you put all that together, the doctor is supposed to make the determination of what they can and can't prescribe. And they're not supposed to have any mandatory, any kind of arbitrary, any kind of treatment. Everything's supposed to be individualized to each veteran. And when presented with the reality that they can't find the policy to back up their behavior is based on what they thought was what they were supposed to do, not what they were actually supposed to do, that's when we win. And we've won in, I'd say, almost 100% of the cases where we were able to continue with the vet and continue working on it. Where we lost contact with the vet, we couldn't continue helping. But veterans cases like that led to the VA policy, which clearly states that cannabis should be treated like any other medicine. And when you're using it under state program, it doesn't matter whether it's legalization or medical marijuana. From the federal government's perspective, they don't even know what medical marijuana is. If you're using it legally under state law, then you are supposed to be having that integrated into your care to the point where it causes you no friction at all, no punitive action at all. But if you think about it, the ethics, the basic ethics that doctors live by, that they swear an oath and that they can only operate under, right off the bat says that they'll never deny someone treatment as a punishment. Punitive denial of treatment is clearly unethical. So like Al said, it is clearly unethical, but these doctors live in an ocean of strange, connected and conflicting policies, and they're told, like, again, to weed out the illegal drug users, and they try to follow the command. They try to be good citizens. I've heard it all from these doctors. Tony, what do you think treatment by geography means to you?
Yeah, just piggyback off what I was saying. You know, like if you have a heart condition, you're living, you know, in a state being treated by the VA with heart medicine, and you go into another state, then you know your medicine, you can get it filled in that state, you know. But when you know, using as a medical cannabis patient, and our endocannabinoid system controls so much in our body. It helps with inflammation, it helps with pain, mental trauma. You know, it's a very valid medicine. And that's the reason we have, you know, like what, 38 states now with a medical cannabis program. So, you know, the fact that as a veteran, we've served all 50 states. When we join the military, we, you know, basically give them a blank check for our life. There's many of us that come back, if, you know, we're fortunate enough to come back to our family and our homes in our home state. A lot of us have injuries, you know, when we come back, and by using medical cannabis, we're doing harm reduction. We're trying to reduce pharmaceutical meds, which have a lot of harsh side effects that some veterans overdosing, you know, or maybe they're committing suicide with some of these pharmaceuticals. So the cannabis is it's a really, you know, harm reducing way to treat our ailments. And when we're prescribed or recommended the use of this medicine, you know, we should be able to use it in all 50 states. And the VA has mandated to study, you know, new medicine to treat veterans. They have all these mandates in place. For them to be stonewalling on this medical cannabis situation, when again, right across the border, we have the Veterans Health Administration of Canada giving veterans their medication, their 3 grams a day they're allotted for cannabis. So what's that whole system of veterans in Canada? Something's wrong with them that they're getting medical cannabis, but the U.S. we're too good to get it, or what's the deal? You know, there's some kind of, you know, I don't want to be a conspiracy theory, but there's some kind of thing going on with the VA. That's them right there. That's the VA right outside of D.C. That's the Plant Over Pills rally. So veterans have been working for years. Al and some of the veterans have passed already, have been working to get the VA to let us have this cannabis medicine to help save our lives. And again, when we go into the military, we go across borders without a passport or anything. They send us all over the world, just stomping on everybody's country and doing their job. When we come back here, we expect to be treated with respect and dignity and be able to use a natural plant medicine that's safer than using some of the pharmaceuticals they've given. So treatment by geography is, like Al says, it's inhumane, and it's a human rights violation that our own Veterans Administration is doing to us. It's a shame. It's a shame. If they're listening, it's disgraceful.
Thank you, Councilmember Landry. Pearson, I believe you had an interjection.
No, I lost my place there. I did have something, not an interjection at all. I think it's something to compliment what everyone was saying. Oh yes. Oh, look at that. I took notes. Yeah. Do no harm, right? Do no harm. That's just like me sitting here and being like, I'm not going to do anything because it's not going to harm anybody. Right? But no, doctors are supposed to be doctors are supposed to be there to provide a service that will somehow, in their beliefs and their knowledge, better the life of their patient. Do no harm is a bullshit fucking thing. Yeah. Oh, just because I didn't shoot you, I'm not doing you any harm, you know, or your family or me any harm. That's Stupid as shit. Do no harm. Fuck you. Not any of you. This is out to the universe. Fuck all it. Fuck the universe. And like do no harm is a pussy-footed way to say I'm not going to be responsible for taking a leap of faith in order to provide something that I think might help you. And that's all I have to say about that. If you're a doctor, if you've taken fucking 13 years of school, so kindergarten, your K through 12, 13 years, another 4, what's that? 18 years, and then another 2 for your master's, maybe just a 5 years, so 23 to 25 years at least of education. Hey, motherfucker, do what you fucking learned. Don't tell us what the options are. Do no harm is a bullshit fucking scapegoated motherfucking. Sorry, I'm done. And also, Al is the best pissed off veteran in existence.
Thank you, Pearson. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, I really hadn't run into it too much, believe it or not. It took me a minute to actually understand even what you're talking about because of that. That doctor basically would not use cannabis because do no harm. They're afraid that the cannabis might harm you, I guess is what you're saying. Shake your head. Hopefully that's what you're saying.
Oh yeah, no. So they're there. So doctors are there to be doctors. They know, right. They're supposed to know more than us. And if they don't risk the things that they need to do in order for us to survive.
Yeah, so you're saying that you're not taking the risk. Okay. Yeah, so
you might as well just keep it as trying to see if witches float or something.
Yeah, well, you just be pointing to the correct aisles at the drugstore otherwise, right? And you're not really doing it much doctoring. But yeah, the thing is, in all the years that I talked with all the doctors inside the VA system, I only remember one doctor bringing up the do no harm thing. And it was very ironic because she used it in the context of knowing that illegal drugs were getting out into society because the patients were being given drugs that they were then sharing with people or whatever, selling, the illegal kind of stuff. And that it needed to be controlled more and drug testing and all that stuff. That was her justification of it. And why marijuana couldn't be allowed, in drug test. She was trying to defend all that. This is, again, early on in my work, before the policy that we created by this work. And she said, do no harm to society. She I swear to God, I remember very clearly, she was saying, we have all these drugs in our pharmacy at the VA, and we have a responsibility to society to do no harm, to make sure that these drugs don't hurt people. And I thought that was so horrible because I'm not a doctor. I didn't take the oath, but it seems they took the oath to the patient, not to society. She's not society's doctor. Maybe the Surgeon General might be that or something. I don't know. But Gage, okay, Pierce, you got your hand up again. Go ahead.
Sorry, Gage. Just real quick. I love the beard, man. So much better than mine. But I can go to any VA hospital I've ever been to, and I can go purchase any drug that they get for free. I'll even tell you about it if you want. Anybody wants to know how to get drugs at a VA hospital for $5-10 pop? You want to know where to get heroin or crack or how to get in the methadone clinic? I'll tell you how to do it in every single VA hospital in America because it's very easy. and it's so fucked up that we can't fucking get prescribed cannabis. Gage, how are you today?
Well, I would definitely say that what you're describing sounds like a symptom of a problem that we're all bouncing around. I'm not sure what the actual problem is. Maybe it's not enough training. Maybe it's not enough guidance from the doc. Maybe the doctors aren't given enough free agency and, you know, taught. Maybe they need to all go work on the wild west for a little while as an independent doctor, like in the old days, and learn how to be with people. So,
It's the only option. It's the only options that they're given, Michael. It's the only things that they're able to do to alleviate the patient's pain, but it's taken advantage of. All right, sorry, I'm done.
Yeah, I see your point. They're given the list and they just go down the list and that's it, and don't question it. The doctor should question it. The doctor should take that oath more seriously and defend their patient, defend them against the pain, not defend the society against the patient. Gage,
Well, their livelihood depends on them staying in the short and narrow.
I think they think so.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor. If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
PACE Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
Legacy 420 have an awesome array of cannabis-infused beverages, from pop to Nature's Nectar's teas, all in amazing flavors. What a selection! We even have a delicious mango-infused juice, and let me tell you, it's delicious.
Everything is infused in-house, so we buy our syrup from the same place where everybody else buys their syrup for their pop, and the infusion is done in the lab. It's all canned here, labeled here, produced 100% on Tyendinaga.
We have two lines of drinks. One's called our Nature's Nectar. That was our original line that we came out with, and then we also have a line under the Red E brand. We have them in 10 milligrams, 30 milligram, and 60 milligram cans.
What a great selection for a get-together with friends or after a long day. Remember, if you want to wet your whistle with on-site lab-tested products, come see your trusted partner. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
So Gage, what does treatment by geography mean to you?
You say treatment by geography?
Yes, the basic fact that if you're a veteran in California, you go outside the VA and you can get all kinds of good cannabis access, and then go back to the VA and kind of integrate that into your care. And try to do that in Kansas or Idaho or Indiana.
It's interesting because something that the military prides themselves on is standardization. No matter where you go at in the world, it's done the same way, right? That's why the military is so successful. It's one of the reasons why, right? Our military. So, but yet they don't apply that post-military to veterans, right? There's no standardization for veterans. It's only when you're in the military. So right there, that already shows that there's bias. And I'm with Pearson. I know that Rockefeller started the medical schools. He took away our natural medicine. They controlled it from the beginning. They want us on synthetics and everything that contains oil. So and that's the reason why people get on cannabis, especially with organic cannabis or cannabis is grown without synthetics or without oils, right? Without salts, because it sucks that if a veteran is trying to get off of medications and trying to go clean, and then they go to get cannabis and the cannabis is grown with the salts or with poor nutrients, then they're putting it right back in their body again. So for me, it's the veterans need to have the right access with the right education and the right opportunity, because they've been saying that it works for them forever. I'll tell you what, I've done some research on my own as a longtime medic. And I actually went to the VA in Michigan, in Flint, and I made an appointment, went to the VA, and I did all this absolutely on purpose. I wanted to go and just get my normal checkup. And I'm talking to my doctor, and she's going through the basic beginnings of whatever she's asking me. And, are you taking any medications? And I said, actually, I've gotten off all my medications. The only thing I take is cannabis. And I'm waiting, really what I was giving the window to open up to say, let's talk about it, right? I was really wanting to see where it would go. She's like, well, I could put it in your record and that's it. And man, she deterred quickly from it. And I was like, but it's the only, and I try to tell her it's the only thing that works for me. I could sleep better. My PTS doesn't, I titrate it for my PTS. We all do it in our own ways, and I figured out my way. But that's what's helped me with that, with eating, with sleeping, with everything that has helped me get off the other medications. I tried to go into more detail. Again, she pushed me to the side pretty much. I can put it in your record. And that's all she wanted to talk about. So when everyone keeps saying that, oh, well, you could talk about it in the VA, you could talk about it with your VA doctor, that's a bunch of bullshit. You can't. All they wanted, you take it? All right, well, I'm going to put it in your record. There you go. Now everyone knows it. No, but that's all we're going to tell, because they don't even know how to talk about it. And she actually went to the point where I was starting to tell her, like, this is important to me. And I said, to me, it's ethical too. And I said, isn't this something that we could talk about ethically? And she said, you're attacking my ethics. So the doctor told me, the VA doctor told me I was attacking her ethics because I asked her why we couldn't talk about it. And I said, you know what, forget it. I left, and I will never go back to that VA. So that was my experiment, in trying to find out what's the truth. Because the only way to know is, what, I'll be the undercover boss. And I'll go in, I'll see how it is. And that's what I did as a medic, knowing exactly what to ask, how to ask it, what to look for. I knew everything. And man, she just fucked the whole thing up. It disgusted me. And it just made it worse for am I biased with the VA. I mean, if anybody knows my history. So for me, I'm looking for every reason to see if it's getting any better, to see if doctors are waking up more, to see if anything is happening. Nothing. So for me, it's so slow. So, so what is it? Do you continue to fight the VA? Do you continue to do this? Because I know that, doctors, I know a lot of doctors too, man. I've known a lot of doctors that have killed people. I've seen doctors kill people in front of me. All right. So for me, it's there's this, there's just this way that they run their practice, so they run their processes, and I think that they themselves know that they're in a bind, and they're a bind between ethics and their status and their finances. And I think that And I really, really think that, you know, there's this doctors that I've known that have really followed just true ethics. Because in my opinion, there are no ethics in a monetary system. Okay, when money's involved, you can't have ethics. So when people truly come out and have those ethics and really try to do the right thing, those certain doctors, certain veterans, you know, Al, you, all of us here, I think that, you know, for me, that's, you know, that's a power that we need to continue to harness and to use and continue doing this. But it's sickening that we have to leave war, or I had to leave 8 years of war and come back and go right back into another war in my own hometown every day because of this, because of the government, because of the VA, the people that I went and fought for in the first place. So, you know, it's, yeah, I'm of course 100% against it. We should all be treated the same. You know, everybody wants to be treated the same. Everybody wants to have their choice on what they should use and the medicine they use. And I 100% believe that. So for me, it's letting other people come in and making these choices. The government used to sell it to us as freedom. You know, it's freedom for this, and it's patriotism, and it's we're going to sell it to you like that. And that's how they sold it to us for decades. That stopped working. Now, because people are starting to question patriotism, they're starting to question freedom. Now they're selling it to us as it's for your safety. Oh, we're doing this for your safety. We're doing that for your safety, right? We're doing it for the safety of the society, right? Bullshit again. Stop trying to sell it to us like bullshit, and we need to make our own decisions. And we're finding it. But you know, I'm just going to continue to support what you guys are doing, man. But yeah, that's my 2 cents. I could go on and on, but I won't.
Well, I very much appreciate your undercover boss report there, Councilmember Ansler. And Al, you had a contribution?
Well, yeah, I mean, Gage, you know, your synopsis definition of the medical community was pretty much right on as far as I'm concerned. I just wanted to say that years and years ago, when I started into this medical cannabis thing in the 80s and started to approach medical doctors, they were much like we've just all talked about and described. Don't bother me. I got other things. There's money involved, there's prestige involved, et cetera, et cetera. And that's why in this educational process, we went to the nurses, because if you look at the oath that a nurse takes, their pledge of care, the primary responsibility that they accept is patient care, whatever that means, and some words like that. In other words, they're charged with looking into patients, seeing what that patient needs, and make sure they have it. And that's why when Patients at a Time started out years ago, we started out with the nurses. That's where it started. It all started with the Virginia Nurses Association, and then another 14, 15 more that we got to copycat us. And it was those men and women that identified themselves as nurse that started to pay attention to the patient care and really have led the nursing community really has led this thing, not the medical community. And I think we should all remember that those nurses, men or women that engage in that profession, are very, very well respected. I think in the United States, 1, 2, 3, it's like veterans as firefighters and nurses, or some mixture of that. And when you're dying, or when you just come out of the operating room, there's no doctor there. There's a nurse there. They're the ones that take care of you. They're the ones that give you the drugs. They're the ones that make sure you're breathing right and you're pissing like you should. All those grim things that you have to do. The doctor, he's gone. He's out playing golf, or he's back, sitting around his living room. Good for him. but it's the nurse that takes care of us. So when we as veterans think about conversations within the VA, don't overlook your nurse. Don't overlook those RNs. They are very, very important, and their influence on the medical doctor community is immense. The MDs won't tell you this flat out, but they're scared to death of these nurses, because without those nurses doing the real hard job, and by the way, double checking on what the MD said, so if something's wrong, they can get it corrected in time. They're the guys that check things and make sure that, anyway, they're very well respected. And as veterans, when you go in the VA, again, you know, we'll say this right out loud. We're going to say this a lot. You can go in the VA anywhere as a veteran and say, I use cannabis, and you will lose no benefits. Nothing bad will happen to your record. So go in, say what you got to say, just like Gage did. The more of us that do that say, I use cannabis, I'm off pharmaceuticals, I don't drink as much beer as I used to, or whatever the hell it is, say it. And we, the VAC, has a Freedom of Information Act request right now to find out over the last 10, 12 years, what have veterans been saying about this treatment. And it will be very interesting to find out, Gage, and I'm thinking this is something that I don't want to know, is that a lot of the answers we're going to see when this data is analyzed is some doc simply wrote down the patient uses cannabis, you know, not the results, not the dose, not anything, you know, I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, look for nurses rather than MDs to pass your information to. You'll have a better audience, in my opinion.
You know, thank you, Councilmember Byrne. I was thinking of a good way to segue into this understanding of drugs from the cannabis perspective. And there's a couple of different things about this. I mean, we get thrown into this mix of illegal drugs with heroin, cocaine, and crystal methamphetamine and all this stuff. So I had, over the years, working with these doctors, how to figure out where the lines are and everything. And I think that the best thing to explain all this stuff is to say two things. One, I agree with myself. When I was a kid, I don't know why I was even caring about this stuff. I guess just so much drugs around me and everything when I was a kid growing up around New York City. But I really remember I was about 13 years old and looking at people using, you know, really hardcore drug users on the street that looked like the drugs were really doing them no good. Their whole life really seemed to be very difficult. And I looked at the drugs and I said, well, the drugs are just simply a symptom of something else. I don't know what it is, you know, their life situation, their family, their income, their, you know, their health, whatever it is, I don't know, but I just suspected that. And that was all those years ago, with 30 years of activism, working with these doctors in the field, all this science around me constantly. Literally nothing has dissuaded me from that initial concept. And the problem is that we're treating drug abuse as a disease, that we're then throwing stuff to deal with the symptoms of that drug abuse disease, when in fact drug abuse itself is a disease. And the second thing I'll give you as a description of, you know, the last part of that thought bubble is an amazing thing. It's so usual of the government to give us half of the story, like Dr. Tashkin's study. You know, they would have gladly just given us the first half and never told us that outcome was actually good. You know, the first half was wrong. They never tell you that. With the rat studies, everybody I'm sure remembers the old rat studies where they would give the rat a pellet of cocaine or something like that. And it would keep hitting that bar basically until it starved to death. It just had a horrible outcome. Well, guess what? There was a subsequent study. The government never really told you about it. Look it up, Google it, where they gave the rat a nicer environment, other things to do, other rats to hang out with, things to do, whatever. I can't remember what, you know, the equivalent of color TV and Game Boy for a rat. I can't remember what they did, but the rat didn't hit the bar anymore, didn't care about the cocaine, and went on with its life. And I think that's the answer. That's the secret, is to stop dealing with drug abuse as a disease and start dealing with it as a symptom and see if we can't get to the underlying problems. And where we mostly butt heads is in neurological pain, because a lot of pain patients are chasing neurological pain with pain pills, and you could take an almost unlimited amount of pain pills in many cases and not get rid of the pain, where just a little bit of cannabis together with a little bit of the pain pills would be monumentally more effective and keeps those people out of that cycle. And that's why we're always raving about saving lives, because that would be a significant number, minor number, I'm sure, of the overall problem of drug abuse. But God, we're out there with a fire extinguisher that won't, get the biggest fire, but it'll get the smallest fire, and they won't put us in the game. The fire chief won't put us in the game. So anyway, that's where we're coming from. And the next question really goes right back to that. If you want the Canadian system, which of course has been covered a little bit already, but just to quickly cover, allows veterans to, I think it's up to 3 grams a day on their VA card, and they can order it online from any of the legal dispensers of cannabis they have up in Canada, and it comes to their door via ordinary mail. That wouldn't change my life economically. I'd be interested in vets on this call that might have other issues or how it might affect them economically. I think what it would affect me most would be the fact that it is across Canada. So once you have your cannabis in Canada, it's a national program. You don't have to worry about visiting Aunt Martha and getting arrested by the Oklahoma. Well, actually, right? Oklahoma's good territory now. I have to adjust that, the Idaho police. So what would it mean to you to have our vets be able to access the Canadian-like system here in the United States? Who would like to take that on? Tony, you feel like taking a whack at that?
Yeah, it would mean a lot. I mean, to have access through the veteran, the VA, that like Canada does, where you can get 3 grams of cannabis a day. For some folks that's watching this not sure what 3 grams is. It's about 3 cigarette size cannabis joints. So that would be plenty for maybe most veterans. Now, if you have cancer or something, and you need about a gram of high concentrated THC, that might not be sufficient. So the 3 grams a day of flower, it might not help somebody this got a terminal illness or some severe immune problem in their body, but certainly would help somebody with some inflammation with chronic pain or some mental trauma that they're trying to treat with cannabis. It would help them a lot. And going back to what I said earlier, why we're America is supposed to is reveled as the most powerful country in the world, and they want to do so much for veterans. These politicians want to name a bridge after us, a highway after us, a park. We don't want that. We want access to medical cannabis. In our VA, the Veterans Health Administration, again, is mandated. They're supposed to be studying, investigating new drugs with clinical trials. And you have all these private colleges and universities around the country doing these clinical trials in legal states. But the VA is mandated to do it. Somebody needs to knock on some doors. Some of our congressmen aren't doing their job with the VA to make sure the mandates are being followed. That's in our laws. They're actually breaking laws by not doing clinical research with cannabis right now, because they can research herbs, they can research drugs for off-label use. All that's all clear. They're clear to do that right now, but they're just, for whatever reason, cognitive dissonance, where it's too painful for them to understand that cannabis is a medicine, and that we're not going away. We're not going to stop pushing the VA to do the right thing. They can forget about it. We're all veterans. We all have something in us that's you don't find every day. Some people would give up. They'd be like, "Oh no, that's too hard. I'm gonna just give up and I'll take some pharmaceutical drug or something." No, Hell no. We're on this, and we're going to get it done, and it's time now. More veterans are dying on these pharmaceutical drugs coming back from war for overdose than actually died in the war, you know? And the VA, their complacency is contributing to that. And that's just wrong. When you have a country right across our borders, Canada, all the veterans in Canada, the whole country can get medical cannabis, but our VA, the American VA administration, is stonewalling on this, and it's getting to the point it's criminal. You know, we're looking at them. I look at the VA as criminal right now. That's my stance on the VA health administration. You've been delegated to do your job and to study these investigating new drugs. You got all the money in the world, the budget to do it with, that Congress has allotted, and you're just stonewalling. There's some other hidden reason that you're doing that. You know, we're not stupid, okay? There's some other reason that you're sitting on this. And I don't want to go out and say, just make some wild accusation, but there is something going on that's criminal.
Well, it's certainly been a long time, Councilmember Landry. I mean, we've been fighting this as a cannabis movement ever since the day after the law was passed. So since 1971, 1972, we've been fighting this, and we've actually won, as we talked about in our last Friday Roundtable. We won many, many cases, and yet we're still not able to overcome the drug war. It's taking a lot more effort than anyone would have imagined back in 1967 or 66, whenever the modern cannabis movement got its start. But Al, what do you think? What would it mean to you or the vets that you know to have the Canadian system here in the United States?
Well, I think it'd be wonderful, with one exception. I like the Canadian system. Basically, the country, and therefore their medical nursing community, recognize cannabis as a viable medicine, which it is. That's along with about 30 other countries in the world. And we can get into that in another discussion about research in the United States. And, there is a world out there, and all these studies that Tony wants, they've been done, but somebody else did them. And all we have to do is read them. But let's go back to Canada. It's a good system. It announces that cannabis is a medicine. It provides that medicine to a veteran at their home, mail, ups, FedEx, it gets there. That way the government has a delivery system too. It can be traced, if you will. So there's some security to that. That's okay. Even better, it's free. The veteran doesn't pay for this, and pay for the cannabis, and then pay for the delivery. So I think that whole system is excellent, with my one exception, and that's the 3 grams. That's arbitrary and inappropriate. As somebody that used to represent now deceased U.S. federal cannabis patients for years, I can tell you that Barbara Douglas, an MS patient, got 300 cannabis cigarettes a month from the U.S. federal government in a can. Well, it's just rounded off. 30 days, 300 cigarettes. Barbara smoked 10 of those a day. So if she was only allowed to have 3, would she have lived another 25 years? So I like the system. I don't like the restriction on the amount that a vet needs for his or her appropriate dose.
Thank you, Councilmember Byrne. I can speak a little bit in the back room of history about what happened there. The government went to, the government came to us, the cannabis movement, the cannabis medical cannabis movement, and said, how much cannabis does a patient need? And we said, well, between 1 and 10 grams a day. And they said, okay, your limit's 10 grams a day. And they put it out there. And a real sort of enthusiastic entrepreneurial spirit out there in our veterans community in Canada said, hey, you know, we can bring in vets on the internet and help them get through, navigate the documentation and everything and steer them to cannabis, and we'll make a business out of it. And they did. But the problem was to maximize their profits. They recommended to every single veteran to get the 10 grams. The government put the 10 grams there as the ceiling that we gave them, not, you know, as the baseline. The government, there was a scandal. You can read about it. Quite a bit of a paper trail on the internet about the scandal. Cost the government a significant amount of money to buy this cannabis, and their response was to knock it down to 3 grams. I think that you can get a doctor to write a little, you know, waiver, and you can get more. I don't know about the 3 grams of flour, though. That's an interesting question. We need to follow up on later, Tony, to find out if it is actually flour or if you can get 3 grams of extract. I don't know how it is. I think it might be 3 grams of anything that you can buy in the program. So I don't know. We'd have to ask about that. But either way, 3 grams with the caveat that you go to your doctor and get a waiver for more, I think wouldn't be terrible to me anyway. So what would the Canadian system mean to you there, Pearson?
So from what I understand with the Canadian system, it is exactly what you said, Michael. You know, they are able to order online. They're able to get their medicine or the plant directly delivered to their door the next day. I'm not sure if there has been any doubt on that since I've been working with y'all and working with Canadian and Canadian veterans. I think that's pretty blanketed. They are able to order what they believe they need after recommendation, and it's supposedly comes to their door. I'm not, you know, I haven't been a recipient of that yet, or that type of program, but I think it's something that is absolutely necessary, and it would save a lot of lives. And I actually have no idea, besides the loss of jobs when cannabis becomes legal, which it will, the loss of jobs of the enforcement officers. And for some reason, those jobs, there's this fear that those jobs won't be made up with the legalization of good medicine.
Thank you, Councilmember Pearson. Kennedy, Tony, Gage, I think. I'm having mind gaps here. Gage, I think, hasn't weighed in on this. Have you? On the idea of being able to have the Canadian system implemented here in the United States. If they did that tomorrow, what would change in your life?
I'm with Al. Mostly, I think that, you know, I think that it's up to the government to take care of their veterans through supporting access. I don't like the fact that it's government controlled completely. I think that it should be up to your doctor. As a VA, you can either get it through your doctor or you can get it, through another means or through the VA. I think that you should have more access than just them, which we do, but paid access, right? I mean, I just don't like the fact of the government completely controlling it, but paying for it, I love it. But putting a cap on it is, you know, it's like putting a cap on, you know, on diabetes medicine, you know, or Valium or something like, or, you know, you can't. It's person specific. It's situation dependent. So, you know, and it varies. Each just like each strain is or each cultivar is very specific to certain people's symptoms. so is the amount of it. So it needs to be supported by the doctor, and there shouldn't be a cap on it. It should be just up to the doctor, between the doctor and the patient, on what their scope of medicine looks like for them. And I think that if they open that up and didn't cap it at just 3 grams, which is insane, then I think it would be a good system, or at least a damn good start to one.
Thank you, Council Member Ansler. Last 2 questions, I think I'll go ahead and read, but I'll go ahead and combine into one because it's easy to do so. The number 4 is, how could cannabis rescheduling help the problem of treatment by geography? And number 5, the last question is, would the descheduling bills that are proposed in Congress completely end the problem of treatment by geography? So I guess let's just have a discussion on that. Both combine those two, rescheduling and descheduling. Think about that a little bit out loud. I gave it a little thought already myself, and I found it very interesting. The descheduling, I'm not exactly sure, because descheduling would potentially open up problems for some of the, we talked about that, the dormant commerce clause and stuff that we were talking about. If it's not taken care of, and I haven't seen any evidence that they have in those descheduling bills, we might lose some of the nuance of some of the state laws we actually like, that we'd like to make models in other states. And also descheduling doesn't exactly put the medical cannabis on any kind of proper footing. It puts it, let me put it this way. It has been a challenge to just maintain medical cannabis in the wake of legal access and adult regulated access. So that challenge isn't made any easier by the descheduling. I think rescheduling might help more. George was looking at that. George Armstrong, or Councilmember Armstrong, was looking at the aspect of the supremacy clause of the U.S. Constitution. And if we rescheduled cannabis and made it properly legal as a medicine at the national level, then you should be able to theoretically travel throughout the entire United States with your medicine, etc. That's a open question, but any of you have to weigh in on either one of those, rescheduling or descheduling. What do you think, Tony?
Well, yeah, I agree. I mean, we still have the prohibition alcohol ended back, 1920 or something like that, and there's still many places around the U.S. that you go that you can't, they're dry counties, you can't get alcohol, which, that's fine, whatever. But cannabis being a medicine, just by the fact that it'd be like you not being able to get your heart medication if you go into a separate county or something. I don't think, it's right to have, something where you have to opt in to be able to get the medical cannabis in your area. I think everybody should be mandated. All parishes, or in Louisiana we have parishes, but part of that, the government spends $1 billion a year, fighting the drug war, and so when we do finally get the medical cannabis, or get cannabis descheduled, the biggest part of the thing is for them to spend the money on education. Unless we educate department heads, police chiefs, sheriffs, medical personnel, require continuing education for all medical personnel in the U.S. because they're not being taught the endocannabinoid system. From what I hear, they're not being taught the endocannabinoid system. One of the most important systems in our body. We have receptors all over our body that regulate a homeostasis, a balance in our body. And when we're deficient in these, we get all kind of different ailments, Parkinson's, all kind of things. So until we change the law, deschedule it, and get it off the schedule, but also educate everyone. I mean, everyone should have a basic knowledge. There should be like a 5-minute video, just a basic knowledge that we let department heads of companies not let them mandate that they wash the thing so that they can't fire somebody that's using medical cannabis, or you know, like the medical personnel, they need to be mandated to for continuing medical education as new research comes out on cannabis and its benefits for us. The medical personnel should be mandated to study it, to complete the sign off that they've watched that, or they've attended some conference that brings them up to speed on the knowledge. You know, you can't just, you know, like we pass laws, you know, at the Capitol here in Louisiana, but there a lot of times the police officers don't even hear about it. You know, they're the last ones to know about it. So until we devise a system, when we change that law, it's going to be so important that we mandate some training along with it. So that's my spiel on that.
Thank you, Councilmember Landry. You know, to this day, even with all the work that I've put on personally, and even together with Al, we've worked together on this scheduling stuff over the years. And still to this day, I couldn't honestly tell you what the difference would be to us as medical cannabis patients with our cannabis that we can get right now from a fine dispensary, you know, really good first line products. I can't tell you exactly what's going to be different about that relationship under Schedule 3 or under Schedule 4 or under Schedule 5. All I can tell you is under Schedule 3, it would be fair, at least finally, because the active ingredient in cannabis is in Marinol, which is Schedule 3. And that's never been fair, that cannabis is more restrictively scheduled than its active ingredient, so-called active ingredient. That's just patently absurd. Anybody would look at it with any kind of rational or medical or scientific or evidence-based eye. But then there's also Schedule 5, which I can say would definitely be a lot easier. I mean, that's what they put CBD into just before they pulled it out of schedule. And I don't think anybody felt the difference. Do you feel the difference? Do you feel the difference? I think Schedule 5 would probably be pretty cool. So rescheduling would be okay for us as far as medicine and our stuff that we get at dispensary. It's just not going to necessarily accelerate, you know, reasonable programs for adult regulated access. I say it wouldn't accelerate, but it certainly would, I think, take the heat off that conversation. But what do you think, Al, about rescheduling or descheduling versus our problem of treatment by geography?
Of course, rescheduling and descheduling are two different things. Deschedule means cannabis not on any schedule at all, and reschedule means we're going to accept 5. Personally, I think that 5 may be the most helpful compromise because it would certainly identify the herb, the plant, as medicinal, and that it's scheduled in a medicinal way, which would start to make the medical and nursing and other communities with health problems that are associated with health problems understand it's a medicine. So from that respect, I think 5 would be acceptable to me. Also, no schedule at all would be fine too. But I don't want to even get into 3 or 4. Those are unacceptable. If we're going to reschedule, cannabis so that it is available as aspirin. That's all. That's as far down as I'll ever go, and that's all we need to go. But I'll say again, just my personal little spontaneous thing that I do every time I can. It's a plant. In 2014, the American Herbal Association declared it a plant, and it's in Schedule 1. Now, I may be wrong, but I think other than mushrooms, this is the only plant in Schedule 1. There are drugs there from plants, but this is the only plant in Schedule 1, which is amazing. I mean, if I was going to put a plant in Schedule 1, I'd vote for poison ivy. I really would. This one's got to go. But anyway, I'm a 5 guy, I guess, and total deschedule. And at the same time, I want everybody in America to grow cannabis on their balcony of their apartment or in their backyard or on their front yard. I don't care. They can do what the hell they want. If you can grow petunias, you can grow cannabis.
If we can grow petunias, we can grow cannabis. I think that's a good T-shirt slogan right there. Yeah. Thank you, Councilmember Byrne. I think putting my own 2 cents in the middle here, I think descheduling with really looking at the entire bill or whatever they're working on and making sure that it actually protects us in medical cannabis. I like the effort that Representative Mace put forth. There's the representative, I forget the other bill in Congress, but there's of course the Senate bill that was supposed to be put forth by the Senate Majority Leader Schumer, and it never happened. But that bill had very high taxes and really didn't take into consideration medical cannabis patients or try to do anything really serious about veterans, etc. And I think at least Representative Mace did take a swing at that and try to do that. But that would be my caveat, that descheduling, definitely I would favor. I'm with Al. I think Schedule 5 is a perfect compromise if we have to compromise. Descheduling would be my favorite, but only with actual protection for not just medical cannabis, but for low income and veterans, anybody on fixed income, because if you're descheduling with an eye just towards this big money-making market of adult regulated access at the expense of patients, then that's not morally justified or really probably legally justified. So, but Pearson, what do you think about descheduling versus rescheduling versus our problem of treatment by geography?
I think it's ridiculous that we have to even discuss it still.
Thank you.
For real. Why are we wasting our time with this? Because we have to, because it's something that y'all have fought for so much longer than I have, and I'm still having to deal with it. Why the fuck do I have to still deal with this? Like, quite literally, it's a waste of our time. It's a waste of our time because it's so necessary, I guess. And Al mentioned aspirin. Aspirin is not something that's very good. I've synthesized aspirin before. It takes hydrochloric acid and titration, a bunch of bullshit. You got to make sure all the crap is out of it prior to it being ingestible to a human person without killing them. It's a plant, is what we're talking about. And it's something that I've grown to realize, being able to, having the luxury of y'all's insight and experience and being, I guess, of a earlier generation. It's a bunch of garbage that we can't, like, we know better. And that's the worst part about it. And I hope my children don't have to suffer like y'all, like everyone prior to us, and it sickens me because there's so many great, good friend of mine, I just found out has cancer. I got given a sample, a couple grams of weed, and I walked into or cannabis. I walked into a local local brewery yesterday. He's walking out. How you doing? No, I'm all right. No, really, how you doing? Well, I got cancer. It's inoperable. Blah, blah, blah. I can't drink anymore. Well, you smoking cannabis? Yeah, yeah. No, it's one thing that's okay for me. So I walked back to the car, gave him a couple grams of weed. He's a good dude, and I hope he's with me for a lot longer than the doctors tell him he's going to be. With that, the reason I say that is because he could be growing this shit. He could be growing 13 plants in his back porch, not just 12 with another adult. We can grow poppy plants because they look pretty. We can do we can have yes, just like poison ivy, poison sumac, poisons that we can put in our body that's legal, but not something that has the potential of helping us. And it's really fucked up.
Wow. Yeah. Poison sumac, poison, take your pick. You can get all of those. Thank you. Thank you. Councilmember Kennedy, it's sad state that we're in, but we're working on it. We're working on it. I think that's the closing thought that I'll add to our Veterans Action Council Roundtable number 39 on reciprocity, 8 July 2022, as Kenzie always likes to say. But the closing thought is this, that we aren't just hiding our heads in the sand in states where we have really good access and saying hell with it. If you want to know how to give back, you help us, right, as vets. But how do vets help? How do vets give back? We go find other vets that aren't doing as well as us, and we help them. And that's what we do, and we're compelled to do it, and we'll continue doing it until the system is set up straight. And that's why we talk about Canada. It's amazing to us how many people in the cannabis movement leadership don't really know right next door that Canada has this program and it's set up the way it is. And we're accepting this substandard treatment of our veterans in the United States. So yeah, reciprocity. Yeah, reciprocity on an international level. How about that? Let's make sure that, I think that's where it becomes the human rights discussion that our Councilmember Landry brought up, is when you make it an international reciprocity conversation and say, hey, wait a minute, if you're giving the vets in Canada and 39 other civilized countries easy access to cannabis, and you're not, or you're blocking even access in the United States with our DEA, that starts looking more and more like a human rights violation. So yeah, US, get your act together, at least align with Canada, and gosh, now it's Canada and Mexico and Uruguay and so many other countries too. It's not even just Canada that have modern, like I said, civilized cannabis programs. So hats off to those who have created modern civilized cannabis programs, and to those who live in states like Idaho. I'm sorry for your situation, and we will do all we can. When we talk to the powers that be in Washington, D.C., you will be the first thing on our mind and the first thing out of our mouth and the first thing in our heart. So thank you everybody for joining us, and hats off to our friend Etienne Fontaine out there on the road somewhere doing some family matters. Our hearts with you. Much love. Filling in, but not even filling in one shoe of our moderator. Our Veterans Action Council doesn't have any leadership. It doesn't have any boss, but we do pick people and put them in jobs. And he has been our moderator since day one and just does a wonderful job. And you can tell when he's not here. So much love to you, Etienne, out there. And at that, we will sign off.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega, Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are People Advocating